I'm calling it the red speech, because, and I think we have a picture of two that will show you just how extraordinarily disturbing that imagery was. First up is the continuing crisis here in Washington, D.C., caused by the Biden administration's approach that if you're a political enemy of the Biden administration, the rules of the road, the rules of the law, the Constitution, traditional notions of civil rights and the protections they entail in terms of being protected from abusive and political criminal investigations don't apply. And for the last several weeks, you've had outrageous rhetoric from President Biden and his White House and other officials suggesting that any supporter of Donald Trump is a threat to the democracy, a threat to the nation, and of course the implicit outcome of that type of rhetoric is that anything is justified against them, including looks like a raid on your home if you're President Trump. We had just this week President Biden make a political speech essentially saying what I just said, that anyone who supports Trump policies, which happens to be about half the country, he considers to be outside the family of citizenship as far as he's concerned. He talks about them being a threat to our Constitution and to our democracy. And in the case of this speech, and I normally don't talk about presidential speeches because most of them aren't terribly interesting, but I encourage you to look at this one in the least, and you can listen to the angry tone of it. But it is, it has all of these echoes of totalitarianism in the lighting, in the misuse of troops with him during this political speech. That has echoes of the worst part of Germany, the worst part of the Soviet Union, Mao's China, all that kind of weird totalitarian shtick. And it's something that I've never seen before in modern American history. Now, if you're a foreign national, you may recognize strongman type of speeches with this type of atmosphere, but it's certainly something that's been alien to America until now. So I'm calling it the red speech, because, and I think we have a picture of two that will show you just how extraordinarily disturbing that imagery was. I mean, how is it anyone can look at this and think this is an appropriate kind of atmosphere for a president of a republic to be talking in, with this lighting and such? And I don't want to overstate it, but when you combine it with really a call to attack or to justify attacks, political repression, and I think potentially violence on your political opponents, it's disturbing. And this is on top of President Biden. He just raided the home of his putative political opponent for 2024, obviously his predecessor as president. And I know literally he didn't raid the home, but literally he's responsible for it. He's also proposing to spend anywhere from, depending on how you slice the numbers, $300 to $600 billion to upwards of $1 trillion to pay off the debts of student loan borrowers, and a policy which hasn't been approved by Congress. So he's proposing to spend $1 trillion, as much as $1 trillion, based on fiat. That's not what presidents do. That's what dictators do. And and as I noted, when he and his administration raided Trump's home, they crossed a Rubicon. And so after crossing that Rubicon, I guess it's not surprising that we would see a speech like President Biden gave, viciously attacking half the country. And this wasn't a philosophical disagreement. This was You support this politician, therefore you're not one of us. And it helps explain why this administration, or the kind of the basis for this administration targeting, for instance, those who had concerns about the 2020 election and were trying to exercise their rights under the law to challenge it. Now they're saying, well, that's not something you're allowed to do, and you're going to be prosecuted and investigated by our Justice Department. And you have the abuses of the January 6th committee, again, targeting people in retaliation, it looks like, for First Amendment protected speech. So I wrote a book for Judicial Watch. Our book is the most recent book, Republic Under Assault, a few years ago, and it helps you understand how we got here. But our republic is under assault in ways we haven't seen in modern history. And this president's embrace of this totalitarian approach, this authoritarian approach to describing his political enemies, again, it's not that I'm disagreeing, the politics of it, obviously, I personally have issues with. But from Judicial Watch's perspective, it explains the government corruption and abuse we're seeing. So what we try to do is expose and stop government corruption and abuse, whether it be exposing the truth about the raid of Trump, trying to figure out what went on January 6th in a responsible way, figuring out how it happened, who's responsible, as opposed to taking the Pelosi rump 1/6 committee approach, which is just using it as a pretext to target one's political enemies. Whatever the topic, you're seeing all this abuse of government and abuse of power. Now we're getting fuller explanations for it, and further, it seems to me, rhetorical devices being used to justify suppressing your political enemies, justify raiding the home of your political enemies. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and like our video down below.